Hey TechKnowStuds, when it comes to policy, standards, procedures, and guidelines, there's a ton to create. And who's to say that we don't miss certain components of that? And so what we can do is we can start out with a framework. A framework helps set up how things are going to be organized and what we're going to create. So let's talk about what a cybersecurity framework looks like. A cybersecurity framework comes with a bunch of standards and controls already in place. And so what we can do is we can use a framework to help develop our cybersecurity program. I like to think of the cybersecurity framework as being a blueprint for your full cybersecurity program. Kind of similar to how we set up policies that's going to establish what our cybersecurity program looks like. Well, same thing with the cybersecurity framework. It sets up that blueprint and it gives you already something to work with. And so what will happen is you'll actually choose which cybersecurity framework you want to have, which blueprint you want to start out with, and then you're going to start filling in the details. And so it will have things like you will perform patching on something reoccurrence, right? And so then you'd have to fill it in with, we're going to do it on a monthly reoccurrence. We're going to patch on a monthly basis. So it will allow you to kind of fill in with the details and build it specifically for your organization. Some examples of frameworks could include NIST Cybersecurity Framework. So even though it has the term cybersecurity framework, it's NIST CSF or cybersecurity framework. It's a specific framework. We also have ISO 27000. We have the CIS controls, SOC 2, PCI DSS, COBIT, CMMC. So these are just some of the examples of frameworks that are out there. Now, some of these frameworks are a little more basic in nature, while others are more comprehensive. And depending on what your needs are, maybe you choose the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, also known as CSF. Or maybe you need something a little more advanced. So maybe it's FedRAMP and you have to comply with FedRAMP or CMMC. There are some like this 800-53 that has a low baseline, a moderate baseline, and a high baseline, depending on what your needs are. Since NIST 800-53 is one of the more complex, more comprehensive programs, let's take a look at just the highlights of the NIST 800-53. And so if I scroll down, this is a Wikipedia and it's talking about 800-53. If I scroll down, it talks about the families, the control families. So there's 18 control families. These are like categories here. So we've got access control, we've got audit and accountability, we've got incident response, we've got program management, risk assessment. So there's different elements to this. And actually the newer one has 20 control families. What I can do is I can actually do a search for NIST 800-53 and it will come up with this site right here, which is NIST. It's directly from NIST. So I can click and open this and I can download the control catalog spreadsheet. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So now I've got the document open. Let's take a look at it. So here we have on the left-hand side the controls families. So we see AC-1 and I look over here. AC is access control, so there's access control. And I've got to scroll down quite a bit before I get to the next one. I'm still in the ACs here, so I've got to go all the way to line, well, here we are, AC 20, 23, 25, 148. So then we switch to AT. And if I look, AT is this awareness training. So now we're into the awareness training. So those are the control families. And then here is the actual controls, this middle section right here. So what I can do is I'm going to jump down to one that we can relate to here. This is IA. So IA is identification and authentication. So here's identification and authentication. And here's the control for it. Implement multi-factor authentication for, and then it gives us a selection. So we can choose it for the local, the network, the remote, and access to, and is it the privilege accounts, the non-privilege accounts? So what are we going to set up for multi-factor authentication? And we're going to choose the one that's appropriate for the size of company that we have. And the device meets and then has some sort of requirement there that you would fill in. So it's not giving you the answer, but you would fill it in with the appropriate answer there. So this is what it's giving you, is this is what I would create. I'd copy and paste this into our policies, and then we would fill in the proper blanks for this to create it to meet the needs of our organization. So that is NIST 800-53. The cybersecurity framework, the NIST cybersecurity framework, is actually much more simplistic. So that's one that you would use on smaller companies. So let's go to NIST cybersecurity framework and hit enter here. And we're going to go to this first one. And the number of categories that it has, it doesn't call it families. The number of categories that it has, let's do the view, the quick start guide. And let's see, maybe this is what we want to download. So here is the categories for it. It has identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And then there's this govern. And the govern is kind of the overall scoping idea of this. So those are the different categories that they have. And if we scroll down, this does not give us examples. So maybe I can find one with an example. So here I found the full document for NIST Cybersecurity Framework. I'm going to scroll all the way down to our controls. So we see our controls here. And let's take a look at one. Let's look at maybe one of the identifies. So I can click on identify. And in this identify, the control is we inventory of hardware managed by the organizations are maintained. So we're managing some sort of inventory here. And we have software, services, systems that we inventory. So we do some sort of inventory with this identify. Protect. So we can see that this is much more simplistic. The NIST 800-53, I can bring that up, has over 1,000 lines. So we've got almost 1,200 lines to it. And each one of those has, look, we have, in this one, we have, looks like 2 different controls in it, or sub-controls, whatever you want to call it. And this one also 3 there. So it actually is a lot more in depth versus this one is much more simplistic. And we can see the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data at rest are protected. So very much more simplistic and designed for smaller businesses.